1. Some background. I'm a server at a TGI Chili Bees. Yesterday was the very first day that our local arboretum begins their winter season. Management and the season staff warned all the newer employees, months prior, to be prepared because this would be the busiest time of the year. Our store during the summer averaged about 12 to 18,000 in sales weekday weekend. It is projected to be 15,000 a weekday and 24,000 a weekend. In short, we are about to be very busy while also being incredibly short-staffed in the kitchen. I'm sure some of you know where this is going. This was something that required daily staff meetings to check in on how everyone feels and develop a game plan for this season. There really is no excuse to not know what we're getting into. It's been slowly picking up over the last few weeks, and yesterday the Arboretum opened up its doors and we found out it was sold out all day. By the end of the day, we did just over 20,000, busier than an average Saturday. On a Thursday, this is all important context. The story. We have a host, Sam. Sam is especially unmotivated for a 23-year-old woman. And I don't mean like she has no direction, but that she's just immensely lazy and is generally unliked by most of the front-of-house staff, including the hosts. She stands up at the entrance all night, and when she buzzes tables, it takes her twice as long as any of the other hosts. She also clearly doesn't take care of herself, and her customers have commented before on the way she smells. One even said she smelled like she hung out in a pig pen all day. She's the kind of person that if you remind her she's meant to be working, not scrolling TikTok, she rolls her eyes and says, "Whatever." She's just a very unpleasant person, who still only works here because we need warm bodies at this point. Sam worked the day shift until about 4 p.m., when I walked in to start my night right in the full swing of business. I noticed she was hanging out around the front, but didn't have time to think on it because by 4:30 my section was full, aside from my big family table in the corner of my section. Around 5, I was in the back helping run food. A host catches my attention and lets me know he just sat me with a party of 11. But that only 4 were currently sat and waiting for the rest of the party. I made my way over, made my introductions, and assumed that the rest of the party would be in shortly. 20 minutes and a few refills pass. All the while I'm handling my now completely full section of 7. A couple of tables turn over right at the same time as the rest of my big party shuffling in and sitting with the table. I notice Sam. The table composed of her mother, her aunt, and her uncle, her 3 older sisters, her sister's kids, and a cousin. Now generally in our restaurant we consider this a bit of a faux pas to bring a large party in, one of the first busiest days of the year. We can't really say anything because she's technically a paying customer, and we wouldn't have minded if they had been well behaved, but they were by far the worst table of the night. It starts off okay. Sam seems happy to be with her family and the rest of the drink and food orders go well. It took way longer than I had hoped and ended up getting weeded, so I started working on getting caught up while waiting for appetizers. Some tables were trying to pay and leave, one still needed to order, and some were needing refills and food. I tried to move as quick as I could, but I still missed the first round of food being run, and made it to their table about halfway through their starters. Closest to me was Sam's aunt, the only person at the table who insisted on having her own separate check. She starts immediately complaining that one dish is missing. Said dish during her order was rejected by the group and replaced by another dish, so was never officially ordered, and scolded me for avoiding them and not offering refills. Instantly I apologized and explained that it was busy, and made their drinks right away. When I returned, I started grabbing empty plates, when one of the sister's kids knocked his milkshake off the table, spilling on himself and one booth. Right at this time, their entrees are beginning to be sent out of the kitchen by the runners. The whole corner of the restaurant is now in chaos mode as the family is now pushing each other out of the table. It's a long U-shaped corner booth table. The host who saw the incident runs up with rags and a bus kit, and quickly we get the mess cleaned up the best we could. R.I.P. carpet. Everyone shoveled back in, and finally the entrees hit the table. As soon as the first aunt saw her dish, she stated that wasn't what she ordered. Now I remember taking the order, and she pointed directly to the picture and said, "This is what I want." I confirmed it and the ingredients in the dish, and she said she wanted extra shrimp added to it. The shrimp in question was sent out on the side. So she points to the menu at what she meant, which was something else entirely. I send her food back and start catching up after the milkshake incident. Most of my tables can see the commotion in the corner, and I'm obviously extremely stressed by this point. The family has been here for an hour at this point, and I had both new tables and old tables demanding attention. I start redirecting my attention to my other tables, and one table close to the big table wants to order dessert, get the check and pay. This requires me to walk from one end of my section to the back, all along the way doing small things for my tables as I make the trips back and forth. As I'm dropping the payment back at the table trying to leave, I hear an, "Excuse me, miss." I turn around and see Sam's mother beckoning me with a finger. Instantly, she starts berating me, scolding me for paying attention to my other tables, not bringing them condiments or offering napkins. I did, but they'd ignored me when I asked right after the aunt demanded different food. At this point, I'm just breaking down. Now, I'm a social person, and when I break down, it happens in stages. First, I get quiet as I try not to cry, and then I'm flooded in anger and disappointment at my performance. And then I kind of avoid the source of conflict until I feel like I'll no longer cry. And sometimes I have to go to the walk-in, cry some, and chuck a lemon at the door. Sam is aware of this. While I'm a pretty solid server, I put a lot of my self-worth into my job performance. And there's been several times where I had a table get to me that left me distraught. The entire time I'm getting reamed at by her mother, Sam just sat there in silence, staring at her phone. I instantly go to my front-of-house manager and explain the situation, and ask if she can go speak to my table while I stepped out and collect myself. She agrees, and having basically given up on the table, readjust my priorities to my other tables. All of them witnessed the freakout, and they were very empathetic about it. I was only trying to do the best I could in a very difficult situation, and we are clearly overstaffed. Some guests were waiting 30+ minutes for food, but were understanding because they had the situational awareness to know we were busier than normal. I brought the big table one last round of drinks, dropped the check, and double-checked they were fine. The aunt made a remark about how I didn't even offer them boxes. They had a tiny portion of pasta on one dish, and half a chicken tender on a kid's plate. I never pitched a special, so they're entitled to a free dish. My service was awful, and I have an attitude, and they waited too long for everything, so they needed some comps to make them happy. I just gave up on them. I nodded and sent the manager back over. They paid online, left a mess in the restroom and at the table, and took off. The kicker. If Sam hadn't been there, they wouldn't have left a tip. But I'm sure Sam knew that if they stiffed me after tonight, she'd find herself in a pit of shit when she returned for work. Instead, someone left behind a 30% tip. I wonder who. I have to work with her tonight, and I'm pretty sure my front-of-house manager has some things to say. Mostly that she should have known better. Sometimes the call is coming from inside the house. 2. Perhaps relevant. I opened this location as the assistant manager, took a long maternity leave, then returned as a shift lead. The GM is the same one I was assistant to. In August, the morning cook quit, and we still haven't replaced him. I've been doing twice the work since then. The start of my shift is stressful because I set up the entire cook line alone. In 90 minutes, I do all this. Turn on the equipment, turn on 6 of the 8 fryers, clean the filter machine, filter the other 2 fryers, and turn them on. top off the fryers with fresh oil, stock up 2 stations with about 150 pounds of meat each, set up ice bath and batter for both stations, make and hot hold our buffalo sauce, temp all the fryers, start 2 new time control logs, set up sunny water and hot soapy water, and have all the fried chicken ready before we open. So drop about 20 minutes before open. Yesterday morning, I was 5 minutes late due to snow. There were multiple containers of chicken that were half full or less, so I had to spend time consolidating them. There was also not a drop of batter in the house, so I had to make a whole batch, which takes at least 5 minutes. Finally, all our livers were spoiled, so I had to take those out to the dumpster and take them off point of sale. Basically about 15 minutes of not setting up the line. As I'm scrambling to finish the batter I made, the kitchen aide, Marta, tells me I need to do my dishes. I had dropped off a couple chicken containers, the pan that had the spoiled livers, a bowl, and 2 whisks. She was training one of the line cooks in the kitchen aide duties, so there was an extra person. This means she had less to do and was doing dishes immediately when they came into the dish pit. As I'm rushing to open the line alone, I saw her just stand around watching the trainee. I clarified 3 times that she was talking about me. I was so taken aback for multiple reasons. 1, she saw me hustling to do all this shit, and I was running behind. 2, I always contribute to the dishes. I even stay late sometimes to do all the dishes and clean the dish pit and put in fresh water before the evening kitchen aides come. 3, I am a shift lead, and she is supposedly my subordinate. I simply said I'm too busy right now, to which she said, "No, it doesn't matter." I told her I would do them later, and walked away to continue setting up the line. It's 25 minutes before open at this point, and I'm only halfway set up. When I come back to get the second batter container, she stops me again. She tells me that dishes are all our responsibility and we have to collaborate as a team. Okay then, leave them aside and I'll do them later. She immediately says no. Her answer to that compromise was fucking no. I have no problem doing the dishes, I actually enjoy it. It's soothing to take something dirty and make it clean. The water is warm and the soap smells nice. I just can't wash dishes and also set up the entire cook line while on a time crunch. The general manager, Bill, arrived a couple minutes after the altercation. Immediately discredited my thoughts and feelings on this. He kept repeating that it wasn't a big deal and that she didn't recognize I was so busy. When I said that's not the point, her saying no and lecturing me about how to do my job is called insubordination. Bill actually rolled his eyes and said it's not that serious and to calm down. Marta did not need to apologize to me. She was passive-aggressive the rest of the shift. She put me in danger by not calling out basic kitchen safety things like behind you with hot, or oven opening behind you. She opened the oven door and it actually grazed my leg and she didn't say anything. Marta then argued with Bill about cutting the potatoes. He said she was cutting them too small. There was a back and forth. Then later I checked the potatoes and they were cut the way Marta likes them. She runs this store now, apparently. I had to work the rest of the shift feeling like shit. Bill even told me I should apologize to Marta so things aren't awkward. I retorted that she should be written up for insubordination. Bill rolled his eyes again. At the end of my shift, I put in my resignation. I told him that he expects me to do all the manager duties, but I don't get the same respect. I let him know that he discredited everything I said and solidly defended Marta. I even let him know that I don't have a job lined up, but I just couldn't take the disrespect. I'm fucking sad. I loved that job. I could see myself there for another 10 or 20 years. But the way Bill handled that situation was a glass-shattering moment. I am not valued, I am not respected. I work so fucking hard and I have a supportive management style. I'm always helping wherever the work is needed. Being lectured on dishes is just straight up offensive to me, and Bill did nothing to support me. Later, I talked to the office manager of a dental office I used to work for, and I start Monday. 3. For context, I work at a bar in Moore County, North Carolina. We have no power and are on national news right now. Yay! Which sees a ton of golf groups passing through. It's a huge tourist town and a dream destination for anyone worth their weight in golf balls. Anywho, this group of 12 came in on a Wednesday night and mentioned that they'd been in the night before. From talking to my coworker, I had already determined that she had only one large group in the night before, and that they were super nice and had tipped her generously on top of the 20% autograt that our system adds when you open a table of 6+. Not that I cared, but you know how comfortable it can feel to walk up to a table that you know is easy. Fast forward through service. They have had to split an 8-top and a 4-top because our only 12-top was taken. But they couldn't care less. My coworker and I are busy as hell, but I take good care of them. Everything goes great. Food and drinks flow, and I'm waiting on them to finish up so I can cash them out and grab my shift drink. The guys at the 8-top cash out. I have a double-sided pen with a pink highlighter on the end, so as per usual, I highlight the gratuity as the print on our tickets is small, and it tends to blend in with the tax. I also tell each person I hand the bill to there is an included gratuity due to the size of the party, but that they're more than welcome to leave me a little bit extra if they'd like. The guys at the 8-top leave, while the 4-top lingers to watch the end of a game. When I drop their drinks, I do my usual spiel, gratis on there, and run their cards. Here's where it gets weird. One of the guys flags me back over after I have done my official goodbye, and asks if he can offer me a tip. Internally, rolling my eyes, I smile and say sure. He tells me that I shouldn't tell people about the gratuity. You heard that, right? He told me that I shouldn't have said anything about the gratuity, and that I shouldn't tell people in future. He said that I had done a great job of taking care of them, and that I deserved my money. My response to this was that I considered it stealing to mislead someone into essentially tipping me twice, and that I was fairly sure it was illegal to do that. He simply continued saying that I deserved it, and that I would make more money that way. I told him that I would much rather my tips be earned and knowingly given to me, and then excused myself from the table. They tipped me well, and I am appreciative, but while serving is my job, I care about much more than the money. I take pride in my customer experience and my integrity, and it rubbed me the wrong way that they were offering me advice that equated to stealing. I still can't tell if he was insinuating that people wouldn't add a deserved tip on top of a gratuity, or that he thought I should get literally as much money as possible. It was a wild night all around. My restaurant does not have the gratuity written anywhere, not on the menu or on the door or the website. It is the sole responsibility of the server to inform the table of the gratuity. 4. So I'm a server at a hotel restaurant, started a month ago after working in vet med for a decade, with some serving experience on the side. From the get-go, I knew the management and organization were kind of a clusterfuck, but that's not new or uncommon. I've had some frustrations with my training. I will ask how something should be done and will get 3 different answers from 3 different people. I will ask supervisors and managers because you'd think they'd know the right way to do it, but they don't even know how to do it at all, and have to defer to a server, feeding into this never-ending loop of wrong and differing answers. Whatever. At least in a place this chaotic and sloppy, I don't have to worry about being fired for a mistake, because I work hard and guests leave happy, and I make good tips. Today, for most of the day, we had 3 servers for 3 sections, 2 hosts, and 1 DRA, with a second coming in a few hours later. I was absolutely slammed during the breakfast rush, and doing everything myself. A table is seated. I ask what they'd like to drink. I'd have to polish all the glassware myself, run beverages, and by that time they were ready to order food. But then, there'd already been new tables that wanted their drinks and were stopping me along the way. Sucks, but we were busy and I'll tolerate it. Am I crazy for thinking that glasses in the clean section should be polished already? At one point it got so bad that they started seating my tables in the business area of the hotel because there were no clean tables and I didn't have any time to bus myself. The DRA had the nerve to ask me, "Why are your tables all the way over there?" And I said, "Because my tables haven't been bussed, so they can't be seated in my section." She had the nerve to say, "Well then, you need to bus your tables." That's literally her job. And she did it for other sections, but not mine. I let it go, but I bussed the tables and the barista who overheard started to help me too. Things started to improve, but I had a question about how to run a credit card tip when the guest had a voucher for a free meal and didn't have cash to tip. I wanted to make sure I put it in correctly and get clarification for next time so I could do it right. Every time I'd ask 4 people would answer at the same time and then argue about the correct answer. I cut my losses and figured I'd sort it out later and just said never mind and walked away. Then the same DRA who refused to work my section and had been rude earlier literally screamed across the dining hall a very rude name at me. I just said, "Lower your voice," sternly and walked away. She continued to not help me and then left early without approval. I think, embarrassingly, my tables picked up on the shit show and I made pretty good tips out of pity. I am extremely tempted to go to HR tomorrow, A, because I would like to work with a DRA that actually does their job, and B, because I think it's wildly inappropriate for a coworker to act that way, and the fact it happened in front of guests makes it bad for business, the restaurant, and the hotel. I'm a very kind person by nature, which is why I like the service industry, and do well in it. I have never been in a situation like this at work and don't know how to handle it. I don't know if I just needed to vent or if I needed to follow up with this tomorrow and call this bitch out on her bad behavior. She was chatting, texting, and literally leaning against a wall staring into space at the front of the restaurant while all this was happening. It's not like she was too busy to help, which I would totally understand. She just chose not to. 5. So I work at a fast food restaurant, timid and stressed about getting told off for doing the wrong thing. So the first customer asks for a meal which wouldn't allow me to change how they wanted their fries. I told them politely and timidly that I really can't add cheese and bacon to them. He starts talking like a freaking child, trying to argue with me, instead of doing what every other customer would do and buy them separately. They're so worth the money.
"Give me the manager."
Okay.
"I came here specifically for those fries."
Internally, I'm thinking, then stop acting like a child and buy them, Kevin. So I go to the office, with the manager and restaurant manager in talking about something. "Jake, we have a Kevin out front," Anna says, in confusion. "What?" "A Kevin wants to speak to a manager because I can't change his fries and his meal. I told him the till won't let me at all, but he won't listen." "It's fine, I'll deal with him." So I went back to the front and let my manager deal with it. To my amusement, he was charged more for them by adding something else on his list of items. I refused to even acknowledge the guy after. Second incident. There was a clash with some delivery drivers a little while later, and a really tall, big guy with his 4-year-old daughter was waiting to be served. We were just a few minutes dealing with the drivers when he kicked off at me. "I've been waiting here with my daughter to get fucking served here." "I'm so sorry, what can I get you?" "Well, this lot can't wait in line and pushed in." "These are delivery drivers, not customers. What can I get for you?" "So you let them take fucking priority over your customers?" I'm trying so hard not to lose it. "No." "So you put your customers first then?" I'm in a total daze of confusion at this point. That's when Jake said something to get the guy to calm down. In the meantime, I'm seething at this guy's language in front of his young daughter and bad attitude towards me. He finally told me his order, and he flipped like Jekyll and Hyde. He was suddenly calm and sweet. Internally, I was thinking, you're a bad fucking father. Have fun while your little girl develops a potty mouth taught by you. Honestly, that was a very bad day. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 195. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do bang that like button with a pot or a pan or something. Or your finger. Might do less damage. Yeah, use your finger. And share the video around with all the people. Okay, let's see. I don't think we have any special shoutouts today. So, straight to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what was the biggest, if you're willing to share, the biggest risk you have taken so far in your life? For me, that's very easy. It was the day I told my boss I was done working in that shitty place. I phrased it more politely than that, and that I was leaving. And I did. And I've been doing this for 6 years since then. And I think it's worked out pretty well for the most part. It has brought many good things into my life. It has given me mental stability, although that took years to finally achieve. After all the instability working in that place gave me. And it helped me find the person I love. It has made me generally more peaceful, and I've made some of the best friends I've ever known through this community. So in my case, that was a huge risk that ultimately has paid off, and continues to pay off, I think. So what are yours? What's the biggest risk you've ever taken that paid off? Let me know in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.